Peekaboo. What's that? What's that in there? Oh my goodness.
Meanwhile.
Oopsie, mummy, I made a mess. So just another day of bullshit, really. Pulling a bunch of stuff out of the Camry that I want to keep hold of. So that's all the internal wiring, the cluster and stuff. A lot of this stuff, blue tape that I've marked is just bullshit anyway that I don't want, like door controls, windows, lights, indicators, all that crap. But I want to run a lot of it off normal stuff, so I'll just remove a lot of that wiring and keep the stuff I want, run the cluster and things like that off the ECU and whatnot. Fuel pump as well. I'm currently draining all the fuel out with my little jerry-rigged Milwaukee battery to the fuel pump, dumping it into the bucket here, and yeah, that might be all that sort of happens today.
Tomorrow.
Alright, so I've mocked this guy up a little bit with the wheels kind of straight, and we can drop this bad boy down. I've taken some measurements and there's a pretty serious area I need to cut out, including this, which I was hoping I didn't have to, but I'm going to have to, I'm pretty sure. And this is where the fuel tank sits in here, so it's likely that we can't use a OEM fuel tank. We'll have to have a fuel cell or something, just a little one. And there's no real structure at the back to connect into. I think these rails have to come out too. These here. But let's get it down and have a closer look. Right, there we go, I finished. Ha! No. So yeah, I guess the wheel's pretty centered there. That mount to there. I'm going to have to build something off the back. We might even lose our rear bumper. Ooh, that looks like that could line up quite nicely there. Maybe I need to pull the whole thing forward a little bit more. Oh well, there's nothing really for it but to cut it all up and then chuck it in, see how we go from there. So yeah, I'm liking that. There's a rail there and there's a thing there. I don't know. I was anticipating having to box this whole thing out with rectangular steel and maybe even some bars over the top and everything, and having to fix it in that way, but I don't know. I'm going to see if I can find a simpler solution. I don't know if I mentioned before, but I'm looking to cut the whole front rails out of the Camry and maybe use those in the back end of this so that the subframe can still bolt in and out just like it would in the Camry. That'd be handy if I ever have to swap an engine or a trans or something out, and I can just swap a whole subframe out. What a fantastic tool! Woo, smoky! I love that plasma cutter. We started running out of a bit of air at the end there, so the air compressor's still going. So I think it's a little bit weak, but this is mostly cut out. There's some of that what do you fucking call it? I'm playing like sound deadener. I just can't cut through those bits, so I have to do that with a grinder. And when I say saber saw, I mean reciprocating saw for my American friends. Time to get an itchy nose. Anyone else get an itchy nose when you're using a reciprocating saw? Or the vibrations, the itchy nose? Just me? Right, so that's all the hole cut out. Heaps of room now. And the good news is I've taken so much weight out of the car, it's so much lighter. It'll definitely do wheelies. The bad news is I still have to put a lot of steel back into it to strengthen this up so it doesn't fold in half when it does a wheelie. Okay, kind of there. Not how I want it. That sits too high. So the way I've got it set up on the trolley at the moment is that the drive shafts are pretty much parallel. Okay, they're not quite parallel, but yeah, maybe it wouldn't be too bad. So what's happening is these mounts are way off. I mean, I can do something about that. I guess that's not the end of the world. I would like it lower. Kind of wanted it slammed in the wheels like up here. Yeah, so what's happening is that part of the subframe is hitting on the chassis rail there and on there. I did kind of anticipate this because obviously that bit does sit higher than that. But I thought it would get lower before that happened. So to be honest, I think I'm just going to cut this out like from about here, so that it's got clearance that can come in, and then we'll get all that extra room, and then I have to build something from here up and across. But what do you reckon? Look at the butt on that. I might put some spacers on there or different offset wheels with some drag slicks. Can you imagine that? Pretty badass. Pretty badass. But yeah, it's sitting too high. It's too high, isn't it? It's too high. If we had the wheels up to like here, that'd be cool. We're not going to use those back doors anyway. And that's the donk sitting in there. We don't have a lot of options for an exhaust. It's probably just going to be straight pipe because that's it, unless I have this big hoary exhaust hanging off the back of the bumper. Yeah, I think that's what we have to do, boys. We have to get back to cutting. We'll be back soon. Oh yeah, baby. Stance. Alright, how do we like that stance? Got that up in there as much as I could, trimmed a little, bed it down a little, that side too. We're still quite off on the back here, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. I'll just have to, it'll just come down below the bumper. That's fine. We are close to wheel arches. She is a tight girl. But like I said, we are not going to have suspension on this. It's just going to be solid, so I'm okay with that. Yeah, so I guess that's enough for today. We can figure something out with this, I'm sure. We can make all this work. Yeah. Alright, I don't know where we're up to on videos and stuff at the moment, mate. This could be third, fourth, fifth video, I don't know. I know it might seem like I've been procrastinating a little bit, and it's not to do with this being hard or me being scared to cut it apart or anything like that. Pretty much what it comes down to is just, this is bullshit, really. Anyone can cut a hole in the back of a car and lower it on top of a big engine and go, fuck, look at me, internet, look what I did. Yeah, but there's so much more work to do. This is motivating though. It's pretty cool. Tell me that's not cool. It's pretty motivating. So I'm just going to get into it, really. We have to figure out if we're going to use the chassis rails from the Camry and graft them into here, so we can use that to secure the subframe too, or will we just make our own? There's a lot of work. I already said that. And it's all boring shit too, so if you don't see another video for a while, it's just because there's nothing worth filming. But it's still happening. I'm not going to give up. Definitely not at the moment, because everything's going so well. I mean, fuck. Tell me that doesn't fit pretty awesome. Yeah, so stay tuned. There will be something at some point. It might not be next week. I'm not gonna post an update every time I weld in a piece of steel. But yeah, I'm gonna sleep on this for a bit. We're gonna come up with some plans. Those inside wheel arches might come out. There's some thinking to do. But she's gonna be a little ripper. No, I'm just rambling. I don't know.
Later.
And on today's episode of What Is Paul Fucked Up Now? Oopsie! So yeah, as I kept saying, I think, before, I cut the whole front chassis rails and everything out of the Camry to hopefully weld into the Daihatsu, so I can use these points for the subframe to go into. This obviously needs to be tidied up still. I just got it off and we'll get rid of all this, and I don't know if we need the front stuff. We can trim this back part right up. Yeah, but you know, there's some solid structural support in there, so I'm hoping that will go in quite nice and easily with some trimming, and that saves me a lot of work in fabrication. Let's see.